Dear readers, today I want to teach you that when readers reread, they notice how parts of the story go together. You might notice that the same kinds of things happen again and again, or the way the trouble starts and ends. Love, Miss Cortade. Yesterday, we learned that rereading helps readers see new things and notice more in their books. When you reread, you might notice a new detail on one page, but you might also notice something about the whole book. You might just realize that some pages go together. So today, we are going to work on connecting parts of the story together. Now, I want you to watch me as I reread parts of Iris and Walter and notice parts that go together or happen again and again. So today, we're going to start on chapter 2, the bus ride. On Friday morning, Miss Cherry said, "We are very lucky to have Jenny's mother come on the field trip with us today." Jenny gave her mother a big hug. "I know we are going to have a great time," said Miss Cherry. Now let's go over the rules. Remember, pay attention, hang on to your partner, stay with the group, and if you get lost, stay where you are and I will find you, said Miss Cherry. So I noticed that here in chapter 2, they're already talking about the rules of staying with your partner and staying with the group and what would happen if you got lost. That seems like that's connecting to the end of the story when Walter gets lost. "I've never been lost, have you?" Iris asked Lulu. "No, and I sure wouldn't want to be," said Lulu. "That would be scary," said Benny. "Really scary," said Walter. Well, I noticed right here that they're talking about how getting lost would be really scary. And I think it's funny here that Walter says it would be really scary. But we know that in the end of the story, when he does get lost, was he scared? No, he doesn't even know that he was lost. Isn't that interesting how this story is all connected together, even from chapter 2? The children climbed aboard the school bus. Iris and Walter chose the very last seat. They bounced up and down. Benny told knock-knock jokes. Lulu made up silly fish songs. Everyone was happy and excited. Nobody thought any more about getting lost. Do you see here how they're talking about getting lost? Now, it's not on the student's mind anymore, but the author made sure that she put that sentence in here to connect it to the earlier parts when they were talking about getting lost and the later parts when Walter actually does get lost. Chapter 3, where is Walter? When the bus pulled up in front of the aquarium, Iris said, "Look at all the people." "Hey, Walter," said Benny, "that boy is wearing a shirt just like yours." "He is," said Walter. Do you see that they pointed that out even way before we see that boy later in the story? That's the boy who Iris mixes Walter up with because they're wearing the same shirt. Remember, Walter gets lost and Iris ends up hanging onto his hand. Do you see how all the parts of the story are connected together? Now, boys and girls, it's your turn. I want you, for the rest of this book, I want you to try noticing parts of the story that go together because they happen again and again, or show how the trouble starts and ends. So as I read, I want you to put a thumb to your heart if you notice parts that go together. "Now, children, it's very crowded here, so keep your eyes on me," said Miss Cherry. The children walked down a dark hallway. Everywhere they looked, there were fish. "Ooh," they whispered. "Sharks," said Benny. "They look mean," said Iris. While the children were looking at the sharks, Ms. Cherry and Jenny's mother counted everyone. "Okay, follow me," said Miss Cherry. They came to the coral reef. "Wow," said Iris and Benny. Walter could not say a word. He watched the angelfish swim and shimmer, the hermit crabs scurry, and the seagrass sway. Walter had never seen anything as wonderful as the coral reef. "Are we going to see the penguins soon?" asked Iris. "That's our next stop," said Miss Cherry. As she counted everyone again, "Off we go," said Miss Cherry. They walked past the starfish. They walked past the seahorses. "Oh, look, there are the penguins," said Iris, taking Walter's hand. "Don't you think they are cute, Walter?" But Walter didn't answer. Iris turned around. She saw a boy. "You're not Walter," said Iris. "I'm Nick," said the boy. "Where's my class?" he asked. Iris looked all around. There were crowds of children. She could not see Walter anywhere. "There you are, Nick," shouted a woman. "I've been looking all over for you." Nick grabbed his teacher's hand and held on tight. Iris ran to Miss Cherry. "Miss Cherry, I can't find Walter," she said. "Walter's lost?" asked Jenny. "I can't find him anywhere," said Iris. Chapter 4, The Rescue. "Don't worry," said Miss Cherry. "I will find Walter. Now, I want everyone to stay with Jenny's mother." "Please let me come with you," said Iris. Miss Cherry looked at Iris's worried face. "Come, Iris. You and I shall find Walter," said Miss Cherry. They walked past the starfish. They did not see Walter. They walked by the seahorses, but Walter was not there. Iris thought about Walter, lost and alone. "Poor Walter, he must be really scared," she said. "We will find him," said Miss Cherry. But there were so many people. How would they ever find Walter in the big crowd? Suddenly, Iris saw him. "There he is! There's Walter!" she cried. Walter was standing in front of the coral reef, watching the fish swim round and round. "Walter, we've been looking for you everywhere," said Iris. "Huh?" said Walter. "I was so worried," said Iris. "Why?" asked Walter. "Because you were lost," said Iris. "He was?" he asked. Iris and Miss Cherry gave Walter a big hug. "I'm very happy to see you, Walter," said Miss Cherry. "And now I think it's a good time to have our picnic, don't you?" Outside, the sun was shining. Iris and Walter played tag with their friends. They sat under a tree and shared their lunches. "Time to go," said Miss Cherry. When the bus pulled up in front of school, Grandpa was waiting. "How was the field trip?" he asked. "It was fabulous," said Walter. "We saw angelfish and hermit crabs, and Walter got lost," said Iris. "Oh no," said Grandpa. "But I didn't know I was lost," said Walter. "And I found him," said Iris. Then Iris and Walter told Grandpa the whole story all the way home. Now, boys and girls, I want you to remember that today and every day, reread and connect parts of the story together that happen again and again, or show where the trouble starts and ends. This will help you understand the story better, just like we did with Iris and Walter. Now, we could tell when we reread where the trouble started, right? They started talking about what to do when they got lost and how scary it would be. And then they saw that boy that was wearing the same shirt as Walter. And then when Walter gets lost, Iris is still hanging on to a hand, but she doesn't realize it's not Walter. It's the boy who has the same shirt. All through the story, the parts are connected. So from now on, I want you to reread and connect the parts of the story together.